Hello and welcome back to a new video on the Ludwig Fussel channel. Today we're gonna continue on with our C++ expense calculator. Now in the last video we have basically implemented that it works in memory. It's already open on Git. You can see if you want to have the older version, you have the text available, you have the releases available, it's all set up. Today we're going to continue on writing code for it. We're going to write some serialization and deserialization. Just that you can see how it works. The expense calculator works by basically having an empty expense sheet. So if I do list, I get nothing. And I can add to that expense sheet by having the add command, budget 100, so I can add a budget to my expense calculator. Now I've already made a mistake because by default everything is subtracted, so let me actually delete the budget again and then add the budget now with plus 100 to add to that budget. Now it is plus, and what I can now do is I can now add some expenses. So if I buy some coin for like 10, and I buy some bread for 20, buy some USB stick for 40, and list all of that. Then I can evaluate. All right, I still have 30 left, so I can buy some for like source for 28.89, and I can list it. I can evaluate that and see that I have still a bit of money left over. No, I do not have money left over. I have minus money. I have... Oh, that's bad. I wanted to say 28.83. Okay, so we made another mistake. So I could remove source, or I could basically just get some money from my grandma, and grandma gave me 50. And if I now evaluate, I'm back on 41.11 money. That's good. Yeah, but the problem is, if I exit out of my application, I have no way to restore my data. It's gone forever, and that's bad because we want to at least save this somewhere so that we can use the expense calculator to reload data. And how are we going to do this? Well, we're going to talk about something called serialization. So basically what we want to do is we want to have a way to serialize and deserialize from and to a expense sheet. I'm just going to write this into the expense sheet itself. I'm not going to make this too fancy. Now, I do want to make it a bit fancy at least. I'm going to have this done with streams, because basically it's a bit better if you're doing this with streams. All right, now first of all, we need to kind of like come up with a way on how we want to do the binary format of an entry. Actually, we could even try to like serialize entries themselves. Maybe that's a good idea. Maybe not. I don't know. We want to directly serialize entries, or do we want to serialize them? Maybe we want to do that. Maybe we want to provide the serialized methods on entries so that we can serialize single entries. Maybe this is a better idea. Now, the general idea, the binary format that I want to have is I want to have it directly as it is in here. An entry is built out of a variable length string and a fixed length double. Fixed length because the double is always fixed. And the binary format is going to be, so maybe binary format, it's going to be string, null terminator, and then maybe let's do this like, with bytes, then a null terminator, and then we're gonna have byte of size of double. This is kind of like the binary format that I want to apply, and everything that's kind of like following then is the next element. So that's the idea. So the general idea is we need to read bytes, 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 and bytes until we find a zero terminator. Then we know that the label is finished, and then we know that we exactly can load now a double value. And the same works for serializing. So let's write some functions for these. So let's write a void serialize std ostream out. And then we're going to have a deserialize. This is an iStream. I don't think that we have iStream included yet. OStream might have included that. But the idea is that we have an input stream and an output stream to serialize and deserialize. Serializing is, of course, this shall then be called in. So let's start by serializing. This is a bit easier. Serializing, it's simple. We just need to serialize that whole string. How can we do that? I want to have that actually at the top. because the entry is coming before the actual implementation. Now, in general, what we can do is we can write to out by providing a string and a count. And if the out is a file output in binary mode, it will not kind of like destroy anything. Now we have the label as an internal member, and I want to basically get the C string from the label, and I want to have the labels.length +1 so that I have the null terminator right at hand. So I'm basically just writing it out like that. Now after that I can write out the double. How can I write out the double? Well, I cast to a char pointer. What do I cast to a char pointer? The pointer to value. And the size is going to be size of double. So give me a pointer to value and cast it to a char pointer so it's seen as bytes, and the length is the number of bytes of a double. And we're just going to write it out like that, and we do nothing more. Now, how do we serialize them in? Well, the idea, it's the same idea, only the other way around. The only difference is now that we can't really read them in properly. So what we now need is a string stream. I don't know, do we have them? Here, the string stream SS. No, we don't have it in here. SS stream. Let's put it in here. And what we now basically need to do, we need to read it byte by byte until we find our null terminator. So basically what I want to here do is I have a char. Oh, that is not what I want to do. I do not want to delete everything for it C. No, I want to have a char C. And basically, what I want to do is, by default, let's maybe give this some... No, we don't need to have it as a default value. We basically just do a do while loop. C not equal the null terminator. So that's the idea. And everything else works simple. We basically just output C, but before we can output C, we need to read something. We need to read 2C, and we read 1 byte. So basically read 1 byte at a time. We push them all to the stream. The stream should be fine with adding the null terminator actually, so it shouldn't really complain about that one. And as soon as C is the null terminator, it will go out of that do while loop. And then the only thing left to do is to read in the value. Again, same story, pointer to value converted to bytes, and then size of double. And that's the only thing that we need to do. This is how we can serialize or deserialize the entry. Now, this is a binary deserialization. This is very important to know. We could serialize to something like JSON or XML, which would then have the proper value, like in a human readable format. This is not a human readable format, what we are doing here. This is basically a binary format that we are building here. But I don't want to go into like the details how libraries and stuff like that work. All right, so how do we continue on with that? Well, now since we are able to serialize and deserialize one entry, we need to be able to serialize and deserialize the whole thing. Or we could just, maybe we will have enough time. Maybe let's quickly check that everything works here by serializing and deserializing in here. I want to include fstream here for file streams so that this is all working. And what I basically want to do is I want to have an off stream file out, and this is going to be std ios out std ios binary. I don't know why I always tend to... Yeah, of course, first I need the path. Let's output this to /entry.bin. So, or entry.dat for data. I like that more. And then let's create a expense sheet entry. Actually, we would not even need to have this exposed, but now that it's exposed, it's even better. And then I could provide a label, dummy. Yeah, no, it's a doemi, whatever. And the value is 99.998 would 5 ever f. No, not f. No float, like that. And then the idea is that we can say e.serialize to file out. And then this should work. And then we can say file out dot close. And then we can say if stream file in dot slash entry dot dot std ios in std ios binary. And then we can maybe get a E and the EX, and then I say EX deserialize from file in dot close. And the idea is that this all works. Now the only thing that we need to check is that our debug directories are set up correctly, which is probably not the case currently. The working directory is the project directory. I want to actually have this in the solution dir, and then I want to have this in the subdirectory work, solution dir work, which should resolve to the correct path. Solution dir is already containing a backslash, so we can do it like that basically. The only thing that we need to do is we now need to add the directory. So in Visual Studio Code, I want to have the work directory down there so that we can serialize and deserialize in that directory. And now we can try out if that works. So I'm making a breakpoint here. Here and here, maybe even like here. And maybe, yeah, I think these are enough. And let's now see what we got. Now, this should give us the entry E, which is filled, and the entry X that is not filled at all. Yeah, you can see E, it is filled. X is not filled. Now, okay, why did I make that breakpoint here? I wanted to actually make it like that. Okay. Now we call the serialize. Actually, I could just even go further, but I think maybe we rather want to have them like that and remove that one. These are the proper ones. Now as the file is closed, and now I would imagine that the data has been written. And if I take a look at Visual Studio Code, you can actually see that entry.dot is here, and you can see it is not able to use it because it's binary. However, if we want to take a look at how this actually works, do I have the hex editor already installed here? No, I don't have the hex editor installed. I think it's called HardX. No, it's not. Hex editor HXD. No, not HardX, HXD is the editor that I want to download, and I want to download the one. It's a quite modern version, but the page looks older. What the hell? I want to have the English version. They are all unstable. That's always good. Download. HD setup. Yes. English. Next. I accept. Next. Don't need a desktop shortcut. Install, and it's done. We don't want to read me. I want to open this up, and there is a way to actually to install that one to the to Windows. I think it's in the options. Yeah, here, open with HDX and open with HDX read only, customize Explorer context menu. Yes. And now after we restart our Explorer, so I think I already reviewed the file here. Let's maybe close that. Reveal this again. I can right click that, and down here I can say open with HDX. And now I can actually take a look on how the binary format looks like. You can actually see that the text is readable because this is ASCII. So the Yumi 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the dot, which is the null terminator, is actually visible. And then we have the double value. And actually, if you take a look at the right, you might be even able to see that here, right? Double. Here's the value 99.9945, whatever, because we basically just dumped the double value, and the hex editor is able to see that. You can see that this is 3 plus 5, so 8 bytes, 64-bit. Float would be just the half of the position. So you can see this seems to be decoded quite well. And now, if we go back to our C++ application, we should be able to read this in. So this was now the deserialization, and you can see that X is having the right value, but not the right string, because I am again an idiot. I've forgotten something. If I read to a string stream, I of course need to set my label to the SS string as well. If I don't do that, I'm not going to get it. And now it should work. So serialize it again, deserialize it, and now you can see that the X is also containing the right values, and these two objects are the same, even though they have gone over the file system for the serialization and deserialization. Alright, so now we basically need to implement this into the expense sheet so that I can serialize a whole expense sheet. How do I want to do that? Well, first of all, the expense sheets needs a few functions. I want to have a void serialize std ostream reference os, or do we want to even have an os? Now I think that the stream shall not even, the function shall not even be called serialize. They shall be called open and save. And instead of getting streams, I actually want to have fstream in here, and I want to use the file system RP. File system RP is so that we can provide a file a path, because the path has a special thing. We can provide a const std file system path reference data file. And the idea is that this is basically a file that we want to open and save. And with fstream, we can actually interact with them, which means that instead of fstream, we need file system maybe here, because we're going to use it. Sadly, there are no literals for file systems, but that's a different story. Now we can add the implementation here for open, which is basically deserialize, and save, which is basically serialize. Now, how is saving going to work? Well, saving is actually quite simple. std offstream file out is going to be opened by the data file, std ios out, and std ios trunk for truncate, which means that an existing file is removed. And then binary for binary file, and then what I want to do is if file out is open, I want to continue on. Maybe I do still want to provide a boolean. A bit of feedback is always good. Since we can have a bit of checkings if it's open or closed, it's good. Now, one thing that I could actually also do is I could quickly make sure that all directories are created. Let's call this one path equals data file, and then say path remove file name, and then say std file system create directories, and then I can put in the path, and it's going to make sure that all the directories are created and that we can create a file in that directory. So return false down here if we have something wrong. Other way we return true. And now how we do serializing? Well, first of all, serializing and saving can be const, because we are not modifying the internal state of the class. And then what we basically do is we iterate over everything. Auto entry reference E in my entries. And what I'm basically going to say, yeah, it needs to be const, not auto. Const entry reference. There we go. And then what I basically say is, okay, serialize is not marked correctly. Because serialize needs to be also const, it's not modifying that, so we can make it const, but it needs to be marked correctly, and then we can say e serialize file out, and that's everything that we need to serialize a whole lot of data to that. Opening, on the other hand, is a bit more involved, so std if stream file in data file std ios in std ios binary if file in is open. I can return false here, so we're here maybe return true. Now this shall then return a boolean, and above here I changed the wrong one, a boolean as well. Now, how can we open it up? Well, it's actually a bit of more involved to deserialize something than serializing, because we don't know how many elements are in there. Now, there are multiple ways of solving that issue. I'm going to solve it the really stupid and dumb way. Well, basically, before we're going to serialize all of my entries, I want to first write how many we have. How do I do that? File out dot write, and I need to write something. What do I want to write? A size t element count, m entries size. Now we have the number of elements, and then I can convert to a char pointer, a pointer to element count with the size of size t. And now I have first written the number of elements that we have. How do I read them in? Size t element count equals 0, and then I do file in read pointer to element count, size of size t. And I really love that you always need to convert this. This is why if I write libraries like that, these are always void pointers, so they can have every pointer in here. So basically now I'm reading that, now I know how many elements I have, now I can basically iterate over these and basically make a loop. And what I'm basically going to say is entry e dot deserialize from file in, and then I say entries pushback e, and so that I can reuse that memory basically, and then I have a copy. I think this is really doesn't care how I'm doing that, which way around. Or is it? Now maybe we want to do it like that, and then have a move. But I think at the end it's the same. At the end we always allocate. Maybe not, because copying and then adding a new one. I know what's the best idea here. You would need to measure that to see what's going on. But well, yeah, that's kind of like the idea how this is working. Now the only thing, if I'm opening that and before I'm going into that loop, I want to have a entries erase, because I want to make sure that all elements are not erase, clear. I think to clear all elements out of the vector before we're gonna read in the elements. So that all residue is cleaned up before we get to and read that in. And that's kind of like the idea here, right? Just as simple as that. We just have some badass binary format created, and now we should be able to use it. And what I want to do is basically have two more comments. I want to have a comment open and save. So else if comment equals open, else if command equals save, and I basically want to save. So if args.count equals 1, so one argument, then we're gonna do it. Else stdc out usage save path. No, this is actually open, but I don't care because I need both of them. And not see out. Yeah, copy this over. Put open in here. And basically what I want to do is I want to now treat this as an std file system path p or f. Let's just call it p. Args at 0. This can be converted, and then I want to extension. I want to replace the extension. I want to replace the extension with dot for binary. I just want to make sure that the extension is explicitly set. And then I want to say if not expenses open p cdc out fail to open file std end line, and the same goes for that, but with save and not with open. Same here. And now we should be able to serialize and deserialize our data. Let's try it out. And we could let's maybe try out if we can add something, an empty one. Let's save to my, and we already crashed it. Okay. Create directories failed because it is empty. Isn't that checking it? Basically, create directories was done with a empty path. So maybe if this is not empty, then I wanna do this. Save this to my. Okay, we didn't get an error message, and we should have my dot dot. Let's take a look on how my dot dot looks like. There's a bit of data in here. I can remove that entry. This is no longer something that we can read. Show more options. Let's see. And we have one 8-bit integer with all zeros, which means that it is a 0 integer, which means nothing is in here. Actually, I could maybe try to open this up in read-only. I think if I open this up in... Wasn't there a way to open this with a short key? No. Shift F10. So that's really a bad short key. But I think if I do it read-only, then if it changes, it will change in the HD hex as well. So the application is still running. I can now add a budget of 100 and then save again to my. And now, yeah, now you can see it has changed. If I now select the first 8 values, because it's a 64-bit value, you can see that it is one entry. There is our entry budget, and this shall be our float. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the float is double, sorry, is 100. So this is actually correct. You can see that it was saved. Let's add a few more items to that. So let's add a coin for 1.99. Let's add a bread. Now let's add our friendly USB stick for, if this is a rather cheap one. Maybe let's add a pizza for like $8.99. Let's add some drinks. Since drinks are very expensive, let's do it like that. Yeah, they are. If I do an eval, yeah, that's quite good. Let's save this to my. And let's go back in here. Now it has changed. Let's see how it looks like. We now have the number 5. So we have 5 elements in here. It's correct. 0 to 4, 5 elements. Then we have the budget. 1, 2, 4, 6, 8. This must be the 100. Yeah, this is the 100. Now is the coin, null terminator. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this must be like something like 1, yeah, minus 1.99. Then we have the USB stick with the null terminator, and it looks good, right? It is binary, a bit of the stuff is readable still, but it is looking good. Now the more interesting thing is, if I exit now, can I actually load this? Can I open my? And what you can see, our data is in here. So our serialization did work. We can open this up, we can close it up, and it is all good. Now there's one more feature that I want to add. Every application that is kind of like doing something, it is working with a special file extension. Currently I just called this dot. However, what we want to do is we want to make this a bit more compliant. We want to add our own extension that's not dot. So how do we want to call our extension? That's a good question. Where's actually the code where I changed the extension? Was it the main? Did I change the main? Yeah, I changed the main. So how do I want to call that one? Maybe let's call this Fusel Expense Calculator. FEXC. That's how I want to call that. So let's give that an interesting extension. And now what we want to do as well, we want to add the support that like every application supports. We want to add the support that you can actually from the command line open this up. So int argc char pointer argv, because applications normally support that if the first start argument is the path to a file that's supported by the application, it shall also open this up. So let's call this one command loop. And let's now here check if file shall be opened. And what I do want to do quickly is I want to actually replace the extension not inside of the main, because this might now make things a bit harder. So I want to actually remove that replace extension, and I want to replace the extension inside the expense sheet actually. In the data file. So let's say auto path equals data file, then path.replace extension, and then we need to use the path down here. It is just a better way of doing that, because now then I don't need to do all of that stuff. I have paths already, but I can override path. I can reuse that object down there. And now we have that implemented a bit better. Now the only thing that I need to do is I need to check if the argument is actually there. So if arg z equals 2, because like 1 is there by default, and if there's a second one, it's the file path, and then what I'm basically just gonna do is basically gonna get this as a path, and it's gonna be arg v of 1, and then what I'm gonna basically do is expenses.open path, and I'm ignoring the result. But that's the idea here, right? Shouldn't change too much. The only thing that's currently changing is the file extension, but we can fix that. Let's rename this to this is not interesting in which mode this is going to be open. Boozle expense calculator. Am I allowed to rename it? And this one is able to reflect that? I don't know. Now I've not opened this up read only. That's not a good idea. Read only. But now the idea, my should still open up because the path is correct. But the idea is that you can now actually open this up differently. So if I would go to my directory and I would go to my project, open up the CMD here, and now I would want to start the application. Now this is a bit more involved, starting the application from the terminal like that, because I basically need to have the full path. It is in build x64 debug, I think, and then it's expenses.exe, is it? Expenses build. No, still in the subdirectory bin. But this one shall work. Yeah, now we are in here, and now we can provide the argument. Now this one is stored in work my. And this shell now already has opened up the data that's in here, and you can see it is. If I start this, if I go exit and start this normally and I do a list, nothing is in here. But if I start this with work my and do a list, everything is in here. This is just some stuff on how you do this or on how application works. Because if you would now ship your application with an installer, you can actually tell this installer that it shall create a file association, and it can create this file association with your application. And basically, what Windows will do, if you double click a file with that extension, it will basically open this up with your access, or the terminals or the CMD. If you would double click the file, will pop up and the file would be loaded in here. We could try this actually out quickly. Windows associate file association tool. Let's maybe see. There's some. Why do people always, like developers like me, always try to overcomplicate things? You do not need to overcomplicate that. You can double click that one, go to more apps, look for another app on your computer, and maybe do a release build. This would be maybe a bit more intuitive to have a release build opening this up. Why do I try to overcomplicate it? Now I need to select a new application, and it is in by documents, CPP projects, expensive, build, release, binary, expenses exe. And there you go. List, there they are. They are in here, and if I type an exit, it closes. And now you can see this associated. Okay, the icon is not matching. It looks like an exit, but if I double click it, I am in here. I can type in list, and it works. So I'm directly in here. Of course, I need to save it always correctly, and this is something that should be handled a bit better because I'm not currently handling the correct path. I need to, if I do save, I need to provide a path. I should actually store the path. Maybe that's something that we can implement, because if I do save, I would need to have the usage that actually need to provide a path, and then so whatever. And I think it's still gonna put in the same directory because it's the right working there, but that's not really how you should do it. Actually, you should save the path, right? So let's go to expenses sheet, and by default on save, let's provide a constructor that takes an empty one. And what I want to basically check if data file empty, then I want to quickly check if I can restore the path. So maybe let's store it std file system path path. And let's check if this one is empty, and if path is empty, then return false, then it failed. Else, what I can do is I can say that data file equals mpath. Now the only thing left to do is to actually, yeah, of course, because it's in here, need to be there. And then I can basically see that the path is mpath, and then it's correctly set. The only thing that's left to do is, okay, now I remove the file name. No, that doesn't work like that. Now my code is tumbling on top of me. XPath, XPath, XPath. Actually, we can now directly do an XPath replace extension and put this in here. Now this should work. The only thing that I should do is if I open this up and it opened, then I also want to store it. So I don't think that I return false somewhere down there, no. So mpath is going to be equal to data files, and now that I know that this file can be opened, and now save should also work. Of course, this needs to be reflected. That saving can also be done without it. So save, I check the argument count for 1. Let's add an else if here, args count equals 0. And then I'm basically just gonna do that. Fail to save file, try, save, path. Because now it's probably that one, that version. If that doesn't work, it's probably the other one. If I do a build here in release, it should automatically do the association, file association. And if I would do now the my.fxc, I can list, and I could say something like add, let's add a burger for a quite fancy one. Now we have the burger, and I can do save, and it does a plain save, and I can exit. And it has saved that in the right one. Oh, that is interesting. The file has been corrupted. That is interesting. That is interesting. Now we have a problem. Why did you corrupt the file? Interesting. Is it corrupted? Yes, it is. That's interesting. Let's see what HD has to say about that one. Why is the coin... Are the values also corrupted? Yeah, the values are also corrupted. It seems like it is an offset issue, if I'm completely honest. But we're quickly going to say... I do want to have a comment clear in here quickly so that we can clear it. Void clear shall clear it, and it shall also clear the file associations. No, clear actually shall not remove the file association. I have rather a void new, a new file, kind of like. That makes more sense. Then I can say path is that, and entry is clear. And then I just provide a new function. So let's do an else if command is new. I'm just gonna say expenses new. This is running, this is not good, so it cannot access that. So let's close it quickly before it compiled. There we go. And now I should be able to, like, if I open this up, list, I can clear that. No, new that, and then I can save this under my. And now I should have a empty one. Yeah, let's now add a budget of 50 euros maybe. This is not a budget. Delete budget plus 50 euros. So now let's add a coin of -5. List eval save. Now this should have saved to disk. Budget. Yeah, you can see like this ampersand was coming from some value, right? This is the zero terminator. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And it kind of like had an offset issue. But I cannot tell you why it had an offset issue. Probably it had the offset issue because there were different compilations of the application. I don't see why it should have this then. Let's try this out. If we open this up again. If I save this again, do we now have a corrupted version of that file? Yeah. So opening and plainly saving corrupts the file. That's interesting. But does it do that when I am doing this with the manual exe? Let's add a budget of 50. Let's save to my. And let's now open my. And let's now save my. And open my. And there it has been corrupted. That's interesting. Maybe truncating the file doesn't work. How does the corrupted file now with a single work? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, that one, 8. That is still correct. However, budget has double spaces. It has double zero terminator at the budget. Oh, I think I know what it might be. The issue might be that we have added the null terminator to the string stream, and it has kind of like a double null terminator. This could be a thing. I thought that the string stream will ignore that, but maybe if C not equal, well, maybe that fixes the issue, because it might have a double. If you put a put a null terminator in the string stream, it might transfer this over to the string, and then it has a double null terminator, and then it writes out the double null terminator. Then I get offsets when reading in, and this could be the case, right? But that's the idea, right? On projects we make mistakes, and that shall fix it, right? Does it fix it? I'm quite confident it does. Okay, this is the corrupted one. Let's now reconstruct this one in the proper way. Let's add a budget of 100. And again, I made a mistake. I don't know why I am too bad to even work with my own application, but yeah. Let's delete this, and let's add the budget of plus 100. Let's list, we have it. Now let's add a coin of 5. List, save under my. Okay. Now, if I open this up, we are good, right? If I now have good. If I now save it, then was when the file was corrupted. And if I now open this up again and do a list, it's no longer corrupted. If I save it again, exit again, open it again, list it again, it's not corrupted. Okay, so this was actually an issue. Good to know that the string stream is actually, I mean, it's kind of like its purpose, right? Its purpose is to also handle binary data and not only string data, so why assume that it stripes away the null terminator? And it does not, so that's good to know. Okay, but we fixed the issue and everything is good. Now we can open up these expenses, and the nice thing is that Windows even plays nice with console applications, because you can double click it, it opens this up. You can add something to your expensive cock. I mean, like the chicken, of course. But we're gonna delete the chicken. Maybe it's better to do the chicken. No, I mean, cock and chicken is like a different thing, but the male chicken. Add the male chicken. No, it's more costly, but maybe that happens. If you do it too much, the price change, and you can evaluate your money. And I didn't save it. Now the chicken is not in here. Maybe we should have a warning, but we don't want to overdo it. The video is already long enough. We don't want to overdo it today and now add a warning in here for that. But the cork is gone. Okay. So that's it. Thank you for watching. I am gonna do a git commit here with all the changes. Video 2. 3. Yeah, we can actually commit this one. Serialization. Serialization. There we go. Commit, sync, and done. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and see you in the next video. Bye.